Asterisk, asterisk. Part 1. The Shadow of Dust. Hollow, asterisk, asterisk. The sun hung like a burning coin over Dust Hollow, New Mexico territory, baking the earth until it cracked like old leather. It was the kind of heat that made decent folk seek shade and whiskey, leaving the streets to dust devils and desperate men. On this particular afternoon in July 1878, neither decency nor desperation could explain the crowd gathering outside Crowley's trading post. Margaret Hayes stood at the edge of that crowd, her weathered hands clutching a worn Bible. At 73, she'd seen enough of frontier justice to know when evil wore the mask of law. What she witnessed now made her stomach turn. "Step right up, gentlemen," Jeb Crowley's voice boomed across the square. He stood on a makeshift platform of shipping crates, his considerable bulk casting a shadow over the figure beside him. "Got ourselves a genuine auction today. Not cattle, not horses, something far more interesting." The figure was a young woman, no more than 22 by Margaret's reckoning. Elizabeth Sullivan, though everyone called her Lily, stood with her wrists bound in iron shackles that caught the harsh afternoon light. Her auburn hair, which might have been beautiful under different circumstances, hung limp with sweat and dust. She kept her green eyes fixed on some distant point beyond the crowd, as if she could will herself elsewhere. "Now, boys," Crowley continued, thumbs hooked in his vest. "Miss Sullivan here owes a considerable debt. Her late father, God rest his worthless soul, borrowed $300 from me last winter. Promised to pay it back come spring." He spat tobacco juice off the platform. Well, spring came and went, and old Sullivan went to meet his maker without settling accounts. A ripple of laughter ran through the crowd. Margaret recognized most of them ranch hands, drifters, men who'd traded their souls for dust and disappointment long ago. Tom Barrett from the Double J Ranch called out, "What's she good for? Crowley. Can she cook?" "Can she do more than cook, is what I want to know." This from Jake Morrison, whose breath could be smelled 3 horses away. More laughter. Uglier this time. Lily's jaw tightened, but she maintained her distant stare. Margaret noticed the girl's dress, once a respectable blue calico, now torn at the shoulder and stained with what looked like dried blood along the hem. Whatever had happened before this moment, it hadn't been gentle. "Order, order," Crowley raised his meaty hands. "This here's a legal proceeding. Judge Ferris signed the papers himself. Texas law says a debt can be worked off through contracted service. Miss Sullivan will serve whoever bids highest for a term of 5 years. "Contracted service," Margaret muttered. "That's what they're calling it now." A thin man in a dusty bowler hat pushed forward. "I'll give $50. My ranch needs a woman's touch." "60. Barrett countered. "The Double J can always use another pair of hands." "75, and I'll throw in a bottle of rye." Morrison swayed as he bid, already deep in his cups despite the early hour. The bidding continued, each offer accompanied by crude remarks that made Margaret grip her Bible tighter. Throughout it all, Lily remained statue still, though Margaret caught the slight tremor in her bound hands. $100. A new voice cut through the din. Samuel Holt, owner of the largest ranch in the county, stepped forward. His silver beard caught the light as he smiled not at Lily, but at Crowley. That should cover a fair portion of the debt. Crowley's pig eyes glinted. "Now we're talking business. $100 from Mr. Holt. Do I hear 110? You hear nothing but the devil's voice. Crowley." The crowd parted like the Red Sea. A lone figure walked through, leading a bay horse with a small boy perched on the saddle. The man moved with the economy of someone who'd learned not to waste motion in a land that punished excess. His face, shaded by a worn Stetson, revealed little except the determined set of his jaw. "Well, well," Crowley's smile widened. "If it isn't Sam Coltrane. Come to town for supplies, or just to cause trouble." Sam stopped at the platform's edge. The boy on the horse, no more than 6 or 7, watched everything with solemn brown eyes. He clutched a carved wooden horse to his chest, its paint worn away by countless small fingers. "I came for salt and flour," Sam said quietly. "Didn't expect to find you selling human beings in broad daylight." "It's legal. Train. Got the papers right here." Crowley waved a document. "Unless you're planning to bid." Sam studied Lily for the first time. Their eyes met briefly, hers widening slightly at something she saw in his face before she looked away. He turned back to Crowley. $1. The crowd erupted in laughter. Morrison nearly fell over, slapping his knee. $1 Train's lost his mind. Crowley's face reddened. "This ain't a joke. Train minimum bid's 25. Then I bid 25. Holt already bid 100. And I bid 25. Sam's voice remained level. "Unless Holt wants to explain to his wife why he's bringing home a young woman in chains." Holt's face darkened. He was indeed married, with 5 children and a reputation to maintain. After a long moment, he stepped back. "I withdraw my bid." "Anyone else?" Sam asked the crowd. 75. Was it Morrison? "You still interested?" Morrison looked at Sam, then at the boy on the horse, and shook his head. Something in Sam's stance, not threatening exactly, but absolutely certain, discouraged further bidding. One by one, the other men found reasons to study their boots or remember urgent business elsewhere. Crowley sputtered. "This is robbery. The debt's $300. And slavery's been illegal for 13 years. Sam countered. "You want to take this to a federal marshal? Crowley, explain how you're selling a free woman to pay her father's debt." The 2 men locked eyes. Everyone knew Sam's history, the former gunfighter who'd hung up his Colts when his wife died birthing their son. He'd chosen peace, but the steel in his spine remained. Finally, Crowley unlocked Lily's shackles with vicious twists. "Take her then, but this ain't over. Train." "It never is," Sam agreed. Lily rubbed her wrists, red marks showing where the iron had bitten. She climbed down from the platform on unsteady legs. Sam offered his hand, but she ignored it, pride keeping her upright. "Can you ride?" he asked. "I can walk." "It's 5 miles to my place." "Then I'll walk 5 miles. The ghost of something respect perhaps crossed Sam's features. He nodded to his son. "Eli, this is Miss Sullivan. She'll be staying with us for a time." The boy said nothing, just clutched his wooden horse tighter. He hadn't spoken since his mother died. Margaret knew. The whole town knew. "My son needs—" Sam started, then stopped. He looked at Lily, seemed to reconsider his words. "We have a spare room. You'll work for fair wages. Save what you can. When you have enough to leave, you leave. No chains, no contracts, just honest work for honest pay." Lily studied him with eyes that had learned skepticism young. "Why?" "Because my son needs—" Again he stopped, glancing at Eli. "Because it's right." Margaret stepped forward then, pressing something into Lily's hand. It was a small piece of paper, folded tight. "For later," the old woman whispered. The strange procession moved off, Sam leading the horse. Eli silent on its back. Lily walking alongside with her chin raised despite everything. The crowd dispersed slowly, robbed of their entertainment. Crowley remained on his platform, red-faced and furious. "You'll regret this, Train," he called after them. "Both of you." But Sam didn't turn back. Neither did Lily. They walked on while the sun continued its merciless arc across the sky, and Dust Hollow returned to its usual business of survival and sin. It was only later, in the cool darkness of Sam's spare room, that Lily unfolded Margaret's note. Written in a careful hand were the words, "A woman is not to be sold. She is to be loved. You are worth more than any debt." She stared at those words until they blurred, then carefully refolded the paper and placed it under the thin pillow. Outside her window, she could hear the distant howl of coyotes and the closer sound of Sam's boots on the porch as he kept his nightly vigil. In the room down the hall, Eli sat by his window, wooden horse in hand, watching the stars his mother once named for him. He didn't speak, couldn't speak, but in his mind, he wondered about the sad lady with the pretty hair and why his father's voice had sounded different when he'd said, "My son needs you." The night settled over the ranch like a blanket, bringing no answers, only the promise of tomorrow's questions. And in Dust Hollow, questions had a way of demanding their own justice in time. Asterisk, asterisk, Part 2, The Lonely House, asterisk, asterisk. The train ranch sat like a forgotten prayer on the edge of the prairie, 5 miles from Dust Hollow's dubious civilization, built from weathered pine and determination. The 2-story house faced east toward the sunrise. Though its windows seemed to hold more shadows than light, a barn, equally weathered, stood 50 yards away, and beyond that, endless grassland rolled toward mountains that looked painted against the sky. Lily Sullivan, she decided to keep calling herself that. No matter what name Crowley had tried to pin on her, stood in what Sam Train had called her room. It was simple, a narrow bed with a quilt that had seen better decades, a washstand with a cracked mirror, and a small window overlooking the vegetable garden. After the past week's nightmare, it felt like a palace. "You're not a prisoner," Sam had said again when they'd arrived yesterday evening. He'd stood in the doorway, hat in hand, looking uncomfortable in his own home. "Door doesn't lock from the outside. You want to leave. You leave. You want to stay. There's work enough for willing hands." She'd managed a nod. Nothing more. Trust was a luxury she could no longer afford, especially with men who made grand gestures. She'd learned that lesson in Boston, before her father had dragged them west, chasing dreams that turned to dust. Now, morning light crept across the floorboards, and with it came the smell of coffee and burning bacon. Her stomach clenched. She hadn't eaten properly in days, but pride kept her sitting on the bed's edge, fully dressed, waiting for what permission orders? She wasn't sure anymore. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Too light to be Sam's hand. "Come in," she called, voice rusty from disuse. The door opened slowly, revealing the boy Eli. He stood there in overalls and a shirt that needed mending, that wooden horse tucked under one arm. His brown eyes studied her with the intensity children reserved for mysteries they couldn't solve. He didn't speak. Sam had warned her about that. "Hasn't said a word since his mother passed," he'd explained. "Doctors can't find nothing wrong. Just stop talking." Now Eli held out something in his free hand, a blue ribbon, faded but clean. "Is that for me?" Lily asked softly. He nodded, stepping just inside the room to place it on her dresser. Then he pointed to her hair, made a tying motion. "You think I should tie my hair back?" Another nod. He touched his wooden horse, then pointed to the kitchen. "Breakfast." This time his nod came with something that might have been the ghost of a smile. He turned and padded away on bare feet, leaving Lily to wonder at children who spoke in gestures and wooden horses. She picked up the ribbon silk, once fine, and recognized it as the kind proper ladies wore. His mother's, probably. The thought should have felt like trespass, but instead, it felt like welcome. She tied her auburn hair back and followed the smell of coffee downstairs. The kitchen was the heart of the house. She could tell immediately. A large iron stove dominated one wall, shelves lined another, and a solid oak table stood in the center. Sam stood at the stove, managing 3 skillets with the competence of long practice. Eli had already claimed his seat, wooden horse standing guard beside his empty plate. "Morning," Sam said without turning. "Coffee's on the table, cups in the shelf above." Lily found the cups, poured coffee that looked strong enough to float horseshoes. She took a sip and failed to suppress a sigh of satisfaction. "Haven't had real coffee in weeks," she admitted before she could stop herself. "Crowley's not known for his hospitality." Sam's voice was neutral, but she caught the edge beneath. He plated eggs, bacon, and biscuits with quick efficiency. "Eli, wash your hands." The boy slipped from his chair and pumped water at the kitchen sink. Lily noticed how Sam watched him, tracking every movement with a father's vigilance. "I can cook," she offered, "and clean, mend, tend garden. I'm not afraid of work." "Good." Sam set plates on the table. "Because there's plenty. But eat first. You look like a strong wind would knock you over." It was true, though she didn't care for the observation. The past months had whittled her down to sharp edges and stubborn will. She sat across from Eli, who watched her over his breakfast with those solemn eyes. "Your horse have a name?" she asked him. He tilted his head, considering. Then he pushed the wooden toy toward her. Carved into the base, in careful letters, was Thunder. "Thunder? That's a fine name for a horse." She pushed it back gently. "My uncle had a horse named Thunder once. Big gray stallion, thought he owned the world." Eli's eyes widened. He pointed to his toy, then made a motion with his hands, big, expansive. "You want Thunder to be big like that someday?" A vigorous nod. "Eli's got a way with horses," Sam said. "Helps me with the real ones in the barn. Gentler than most grown men." The meal continued in relative quiet, but it wasn't the oppressive silence Lily had endured at Crowley's. This was different, comfortable. Almost like people who didn't need words to fill every space. After breakfast, Sam showed her around the property. The vegetable garden was struggling in the heat. The chicken coop needed repair, and dust covered most surfaces in the house. "My sister came by for a while after Mary passed," he explained. "But she's got her own family in Santa Fe. We've been making do." "Mary, that was your wife?" 3 years come September. He looked toward the small cemetery plot on the hill, marked by 2 wooden crosses. "Childbed fever. Doctor said there was nothing." He stopped, cleared his throat. Eli was with her at the end. "Hasn't spoken since." Lily followed his gaze to where Eli sat on the porch steps, arranging small stones in patterns around Thunder. "I'm not a nursemaid," she said carefully. "I don't know much about children. Not asking you to just be here. Work the house, keep things running. Eli will warm up or he won't. Can't force these things." She appreciated the honesty. Too many men would have painted prettier pictures, made promises about what they expected her to become. Sam Train just stood there in his worn boots and work shirt, offering nothing but room, board, and fair wages. "Why did you do it?" The question escaped before she could reconsider. "At the auction. You could have let it pass." Sam was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, man makes choices. Some he's proud of, some he carries. "Yesterday, I chose to stop something wrong." Simple as that. "Nothing simple." "No," he agreed. "But that doesn't mean we stop choosing." The rest of the morning passed in work. Lily attacked the kitchen with a vengeance, scrubbing years of bachelor neglect from surfaces. Sam repaired the chicken coop while Eli followed, carrying nails and watching everything with those penetrating eyes. Around noon, when the heat grew oppressive, they gathered in the kitchen for cold biscuits and water. Lily had found preserves in the pantry, Mary's handiwork, labeled in careful script. She hesitated before opening a jar of peach, but Sam nodded permission. She'd appreciate them being used, he said. Eli's face lit up at the sweet taste, and for a moment, Lily saw the child he might have been before grief stole his words. He touched her hand quick, butterfly-light, and pointed to the preserves. Then to her, "You want me to learn to make these?" He nodded eagerly. "I'll need to learn the recipe." Sam cleared his throat. Mary kept a book, recipes and such. He paused, visibly gathering himself. "It's in the parlor, if you'd like to look." The parlor was clearly unused, sheets covering furniture like ghosts. But on a small shelf, Lily found the book bound in blue cloth, filled with a woman's careful handwriting. Recipes, Yes, but also notes Eli's favorite. Sam pretends he doesn't like sweet things but save him extra. Remember to add love. That last line made her chest tight. She'd had a mother once who believed in adding love to recipes. Before fever took her, before father's drinking worsened, before everything fell apart. You all right? Sam stood in the doorway, concerned. Fine. She closed the book carefully. Just memories. He nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. The afternoon brought an unexpected challenge. Eli, who'd been playing quietly, suddenly appeared at Lily's elbow while she worked on mending. He held out a shirt torn badly across the back. Oh, dear, what happened? He made climbing motions, then pointed outside. Fence. Sam supplied from where he was fixing a harness. Boy thinks he's part squirrel. Lily examined the tear. This needs more than simple mending. But she studied Eli's worried face. I could make something special of it. Would you like that? His nod was uncertain. When I was young, she said, threading her needle, my mother would fix our torn clothes with pictures. See, like this. She began embroidering around the tear, creating the outline of a horse. She said it made the clothes stronger than before, having a picture to protect them. Eli watched, fascinated, as thunder took shape in brown thread. His fingers traced the emerging design with wonder. There, she held it up. Now you have thunder watching your back. For the first time since she'd arrived. Eli smiled, really smiled. He clutched the shirt to his chest and ran to show Sam, who looked at Lily with an expression she couldn't quite read. Thank you, he said simply. Dinner was a quiet affair, beans and cornbread. Nothing fancy, but Eli insisted on wearing his mended shirt, and he ate everything on his plate while sneaking glances at the embroidered horse. As darkness fell, Sam walked the perimeter of the property, an old habit from his gunfighting days. Lily suspected. She cleaned the kitchen while Eli sat at the table, moving thunder through imaginary adventures. Time for bed, son, Sam said when he returned. Eli gathered his horse but paused at the stairs. He looked back at Lily, then at Sam, then made a decisive gesture pointing to her, then to the house, then making a staying motion. You want Miss Sullivan to stay? A firm nod. That's up to her. Eli, we can't make people stay. The boy considered this. Then he walked to Lily and held out thunder, not giving it to her, but showing her something. There, carved in tiny letters she hadn't noticed before, were more words, for Eli with love, Mama. It's beautiful, she whispered. He nodded and headed upstairs, pausing once to wave. When they were alone, Sam poured 2 cups of coffee. He's taken to you. He's a good boy. Best part of his mother lives in him. Sam stared into his cup. I should tell you, Crowley won't let this go. He's not the forgiving type. I know. I'm not looking for trouble, but I won't run from it either. I'm not asking you to fight my battles. No, he looked at her directly. But this became my battle the moment I made that bid. You should know that. She met his gaze steadily. Then I should earn my keep, shouldn't I? You already have. He gestured to the clean kitchen, the mended shirt, the small changes that made the house feel less like a tomb. First time Eli smiled in months. They sat in companionable silence as the clock ticked toward 9. Finally, Lily rose. Good night, mister. Train. Sam, he corrected. Just Sam. Good night, Sam. Upstairs, she found a small surprise on her pillow, a wooden flower, crudely carved but clearly made with effort. Beside it lay a note in Sam's blocky handwriting. Eli made this, wanted you to have it. She held the flower carefully, this gift from a silent child who spoke in gestures and wooden toys. Outside her window, she could hear Sam's boots on the porch again, keeping watch. Not over her, she understood now, but over this fragile piece they were building. The house that had seemed so lonely this morning felt different now. Not quite a home that would take time and trust she wasn't sure she possessed. But something, a possibility, perhaps a place where broken people might find ways to mend, like shirts made stronger by pictures of horses. In his room, Eli slept with Thunder clutched close, wearing his special shirt. He dreamed of horses and mothers who smelled like peach preserves, and of auburn-haired ladies who knew how to make torn things beautiful again. And in the kitchen below, Sam Train sat with his coffee and his thoughts, wondering how a single day could change the shape of a house so completely. Wondering, too, why he'd really made that bid for Eli's sake, or for something he hadn't dared name yet. The night wrapped around them all, prairie vast and star deep, holding their separate hopes like seeds waiting for rain. Asterisk, asterisk, Part 3, Wounds That Won't Heal. Asterisk, asterisk. 2 weeks had passed since Lily Sullivan arrived at the train ranch, and the house had transformed in small but significant ways. The windows sparkled in the morning light. Curtains she'd sewn from spare fabric softened the harsh sun, and the perpetual dust had retreated to more manageable corners. But some changes ran deeper than clean floors and mended clothes. Lily had developed a routine up before dawn to start the stove. Breakfast ready when Sam returned from checking the horses. Lunch packed for his work in the far pastures. Eli shadowed her movements, still silent but increasingly present, carrying dishes, feeding chickens, showing her which horses liked apples and which preferred carrots. This morning, she found him in the garden, kneeling beside the struggling tomato plants with Thunder placed carefully on a flat stone nearby. "They need more water," she said, crouching beside him. "But we have to be careful. Too much in this heat and they'll rot." Eli nodded solemnly, then did something unexpected. He picked up a stick and wrote in the dirt, "Mama knew how." Lily's breath caught. It was the first time he'd communicated in words, even written ones. "Your mama was good with plants." He nodded and wrote again, sang to them. What did she sing?" The boy's face scrunched in concentration. Then, very carefully, he drew musical notes in the dirt. Not accurate, but the intent was clear. "Hymns." A shake of his head. More writing. "Pretty songs about home." Lily felt tears threaten. This child, locked in silence, was trying so hard to share his memories. "Would you like me to sing while we water?" His eyes widened with something like hope. He nodded quickly. So Lily sang an old Irish melody her mother had taught her, about green hills and missing home. Her voice wasn't particularly fine, but Eli didn't seem to mind. He watered the plants with careful attention while she sang. And when she finished, he touched her hand briefly before writing, "Mama would like you." She had to turn away then, ostensibly to check the beans, but really to compose herself. When she looked back, Eli was arranging small stones around Thunder, building what looked like a corral. "That's a fine ranch for Thunder," she managed. He smiled, still rare enough to be remarkable, and added more stones. They were interrupted by hoofbeats, not Sam's steady bay, but multiple horses approaching fast. Lily stood, shading her eyes, as 3 riders appeared through the heat shimmer. Jeb Crowley led them, flanked by 2 men she recognized from the auction tough cases with guns worn low and eyes that missed nothing. Her stomach clenched, but she kept her voice level. "Eli, go inside." The boy looked from her to the approaching riders, fear flashing across his face. He grabbed Thunder and ran for the house, but stopped at the door to look back. "It's all right," she called. "Just go find your father's rifle and put it by the window. Don't touch it, just put it there." He disappeared inside as Crowley reined up just outside the garden fence. Dust swirled, coating the newly watered plants. "Miss Sullivan." Crowley tipped his hat mockingly. "Looking well fed. Ranch life agrees with you." "Mr. Crowley." She kept her hands at her sides, though they wanted to clench. "Sam's in the east pasture if you have business with him." "My business is with you. Girl, that sham of a sale doesn't change your father's debt." My father's dead. His debts died with him. Not in my book. Crowley leaned forward in his saddle. $300 doesn't just disappear. There's interest too. Adds up to near $400 now. Then you'll have to take that up with the devil, since that's where my father likely ended up. One of Crowley's men snickered, earning a sharp look. You've got a smart mouth. Crowley said, Wonder if Train knows what kind of woman he's harboring. What would the good folks of Dust Hollow say if they knew about your adventures in Boston? Ice formed in Lily's chest despite the heat. I don't know what you mean. Don't you Richard Pemberton sends his regards? Says to tell you he's married now to a proper woman who didn't throw herself at him like some dance hall girl. The words hit like physical blows, but Lily had learned to armor herself. If you've come to insult me, you've had your fun. Now get off this property. Or what you'll have your silent brats shoot us. No. Sam's voice came from behind her, calm as deep water. I'll shoot you myself. Lily turned to find Sam standing by the corner of the house, rifle held casually but ready. Eli peered from behind him, clutching thunder. Afternoon, Train. Crowley said, just having a friendly chat with Miss Sullivan about old debts. Nothing friendly about you. Crowley. And her name is Miss Hayes now. She works for me, and that makes her under my protection. Hayes, Crowley's eyes narrowed. Getting familiar awfully quick, aren't you? A woman needs a fresh name for a fresh start, Sam replied. Now, you've got 10 seconds to turn those horses around. You threatening me. Train! Stating facts. 10-9. Crowley's men shifted nervously. Everyone knew Sam Train's reputation, the man who'd put 6 outlaws in the ground before hanging up his guns. That he'd chosen peace didn't mean he'd forgotten how to fight. This isn't over. Crowley spat. That debt comes due, one way or another. 5, 4. They wheeled their horses and galloped off, leaving dust and threats hanging in the air. Sam lowered the rifle, watching until they disappeared. You all right? He asked Lily. Fine. The word came out clipped, brittle. Eli, check the horses. Make sure they're settled. The boy ran off, clearly relieved to have a task. Sam studied Lily, who stood rigid as a fence post. Want to tell me about Boston? No. Fair enough. He started to turn away. I was young and stupid, she burst out. Is that what you want to hear? I fell for sweet words from a banker's son who promised marriage until his family reminded him shop girls weren't suitable wives. Satisfied. Not asking for satisfaction, just trying to understand what weapons Crowley thinks he has. She laughed bitterly. A ruined woman working for a widower. I'm sure the good Christians of Dust Hollow will have plenty to say. Let them talk. Sam's voice held an edge. They've been talking about me for 3 years. Hasn't killed me yet. It's different for men. Yes, he agreed, simply. It is. That's why you're Miss Hayes now, recently arrived from California to work as housekeeper. Nobody needs to know different. Lying doesn't suit you. Neither does letting Crowley win. He paused. That offer stands. Though, you want to leave, I'll give you traveling money. No shame in running from a fight that isn't yours. Isn't it? She gestured to the house, the garden, the life taking shape here. I've made it mine. Haven't I every meal cooked, every shirt mended, every smile I've coaxed from your son? Eli's smiling. When he thinks I'm not looking, and he wrote in the dirt today, words, Sam, actual words. Sam's composure cracked. He sat heavily on the porch steps, rifle across his knees. What did he write? About his mother, how she sang to the plants. Lily sat beside him, careful to leave proper distance between them. He's trying so hard to tell us things, but it's like the words get stuck somewhere between his heart and his mouth. Doctor in Santa Fe said it might be shock, that he might talk again when he feels safe enough. He feels safe with Thunder. That toy's been his constant companion since Mary died. She carved it for him while she was... Sam stopped, cleared his throat. While she was carrying him, said every boy needed a good horse. They sat quietly, watching the sun sink toward the mountains. Eli emerged from the barn and wandered toward the cemetery hill, thunder in hand. It was a daily ritual, this visit to his mother's grave. "I should tell you something," Lily said eventually. "About the debt." Sam waited. "My father didn't borrow that money for drinking or gambling. He borrowed it for me, for a doctor, when what happened in Boston had consequences." Understanding dawned in Sam's eyes. "But you're not anymore. The doctor saw to that. But the medicine he gave me nearly killed me too. Father spent everything we had keeping me alive, then borrowed more when complications set in." She stared at her hands. "So you see, Crowley's right. The debt is mine. Really. The debt is a piece of paper trying to own a person." Sam said firmly, "That's all it is." "You're a strange man, Sam Train." "So I've been told." He stood, offering her a hand up. "Come on. Eli needs to see us acting normal or he'll worry himself sick." She took his hand, noting the calluses, the strength carefully controlled. When he pulled her to standing, they were closer than propriety allowed, and for a moment, neither moved. "Thank you," she whispered, "for the new name, for everything. You've earned it." His voice was rougher than usual. "House hasn't felt this alive in 3 years. Eli appeared around the corner, having circled back from the cemetery. He looked between them with those 2 wise eyes, then held out Thunder to Lily. When she knelt to his level, he threw his arms around her neck quick, desperate, like he was afraid she'd vanish. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised, understanding his fear. "Not today." He pulled back, studied her face, then nodded, but he took her hand and led her inside. Sam following. At the dinner table, Eli insisted on sitting between them, as if his small body could somehow keep them both in place. They ate in companionable silence stew and biscuits. Nothing fancy, but when Lily brought out a pie made from Mary's preserved apples, Eli's face lit up. He wrote in the air with his finger, and she'd learned enough of his gestures to understand. "Yes, I used your mama's recipe. Is it right?" He took a bite, closed his eyes, and nodded emphatically. Then he did something that made them both freeze. He hummed. Just 3 notes, barely audible, but unmistakably musical. "That's beautiful, Eli," Lily said softly. "Is that the song?" He nodded and hummed again. A few more notes this time, not a complete melody, but progress sound emerging from silence like green shoots from dry earth. Later, after Eli had gone to bed clutching Thunder, Sam and Lily sat on the porch watching stars emerge. "He's healing," Sam said, "slowly but healing." "We all are, I think. Some wounds don't heal clean. They leave scars." "Scars mean we survived," Lily countered. "That's what my mother used to say." Wise woman. "She was." Lily pulled her shawl closer. "She would have liked this place, the quiet, the space to breathe." "It's not an easy life. Easy isn't what I'm looking for." "What are you looking for?" She considered the question. "A place where the past doesn't define everything, where a woman can work honest work without shame, where a little boy can find his voice again." She glanced at him. "Is that too much to ask?" "Not from where I'm sitting." Sam's voice was gentle. "This place could use more healing, more life." "Don't!" The word came out sharper than intended. "Don't make this into something it's not. I work for you, that's all." "If you say so." "I do." But when she stood to go inside, he caught her hand briefly. "Lily or Miss Hayes, whatever name you choose, you're welcome here, not as a debt or obligation, as yourself." She looked down at their joined hands, his dark from sun, hers still bearing faint scars from the shackles. That's dangerous thinking, Sam Train. Maybe, but I've lived safe for 3 years, and all it brought was silence and dust. He released her hand. Sometimes dangerous is worth the risk. She went inside without answering, but through her window, she watched him take his nightly walk around the property. In his room, Eli hummed in his sleep fragments of his mother's song, finding their way back to air. The wooden flower he'd carved for her sat on her dresser beside Margaret's note. 2 gifts from different souls, both saying the same thing into you matter, you belong. But belonging was its own kind of wound. Lily knew, the deeper you planted roots, the more it hurt when they were torn away, and Crowley would be back. Men like him always came back. Still, as she prepared for bed in this house that was starting to feel dangerously like home, she found herself humming to Eli's fragment of melody, waiting to become whole. Asterisk, asterisk, Part 4, Fire and Rain, asterisk, asterisk. The storm announced itself at sunset, with a wall of black clouds rolling across the prairie like an advancing army. Lightning flickered in the distance, and the air grew thick enough to chew. Sam hurried to secure the barn while Lily gathered laundry from the line, her hair whipping in the sudden wind. "Big one coming," Sam called over the rising gusts. "Haven't seen clouds like that since—" He stopped, and she knew he meant since Mary died. Weather had a way of marking time out here. Eli stood on the porch, thunder clutched tight, watching the approaching storm with wide eyes. He'd been more vocal lately, humming fragments of melodies, occasionally mouthing words, though no sound emerged. Progress measured in heartbeats. "Inside, all of you," Sam ordered as the first fat raindrops splattered the dust. "This'll be a soaker." They barely made it before the sky opened. Rain hammered the roof like fists, and wind shrieked through every gap in the walls. Lily lit lamps against the premature darkness while Sam checked windows. "Will the animals be safe?" she asked. "Barn solid. Built it to last." Thunder crashed overhead, making Eli flinch. Though nights like this test everything. They settled in the kitchen, the warmest room, with coffee and leftover cornbread. Eli sat close to Lily, flinching at each thunderclap. She found herself telling stories to distract him, tales her mother had spun during Irish storms. And the Selkie woman danced on the shore, calling the seals home through the waves. She was saying when she noticed Sam watching her with an odd expression. "What?" "Nothing, just—" Mary used to tell him stories during storms, too. An awkward silence fell, broken by another crash of thunder. This time, Eli whimpered the first sound of distress he'd made aloud in years. Both adults froze. "It's all right," Lily said gently. "Thunder can't hurt us in here." Eli shook his head violently, pointing at the ceiling, then at Thunder the toy, then making a falling motion. "You're worried about things falling," Sam interpreted. But Eli kept pointing upward, growing more agitated. Then Lily understood. "Oh, you're worried about your mother because of the storm." Eli's eyes filled with tears. He nodded, then shocked them both by croaking out a single word, "Scared." "Oh, sweetheart." Lily pulled him close without thinking. "Your mama's not scared. She's safe now. Remember, somewhere the storms can't reach." "Sky," Eli whispered, the word barely audible. "Mama, sky." Sam knelt beside them, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "That's right, son. Mama's in the sky with the angels. The thunder's just them moving furniture around up there." It was such a wonderfully absurd image that Eli actually smiled through his tears. "Furniture." The word came clearer this time. "Big old chairs and tables." Sam elaborated. "Angels are clumsy sometimes." "Papa's silly," Eli whispered to Lily, and she had to bite her lip to keep from crying at the casual use of speech, as if the dam holding back his words had finally cracked. They spent the next hour in a careful dance of encouragement, neither adult wanting to pressure Eli, but both desperate to hear more. He managed a few more words, "rain loud." Thunder safe, patting his toy, and once looking at Lily. Pretty hair. By the time the storm settled into steady rain, Eli was drowsing against Lily's shoulder. Sam carried him up to bed, and Lily followed to tuck him in. The boy caught her hand as she turned to go. Stay, just one word, but waited with need. I'll be right downstairs, she promised. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. His voice was rusty but determined. Promise. Satisfied, he curled around to Thunder and closed his eyes. Lily and Sam crept out, neither speaking until they reached the kitchen. He talked, Sam's voice was wondering. He actually talked. He did. Lily sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. Oh, Sam, he did. Without warning, Sam pulled her up and into a fierce embrace. She stiffened for a moment, then melted against him, feeling the tremors running through his solid frame. 3 years, he said into her hair. 3 years of silence, and you, in just weeks, you brought him back. Not me. He was ready. He just needed you. Sam pulled back to look at her face. He needed you. We both did. The air between them shifted, charged like the storm outside. Lily knew she should step away, maintain the careful boundaries that kept this arrangement proper. Instead, she found herself studying his face, the lines carved by sun and sorrow, the eyes that held depth she hadn't expected. Sam? She whispered, a warning or plea. She wasn't sure which. I know, he said. I know all the reasons this is foolish. You work for me. You've been hurt. I'm still... He gestured helplessly. Still half ghost myself, but Lily, these past weeks... Don't... But her protest was weak, undermined by the way she leaned into his warmth. I can't be what you need, what Eli needs. I'm not Mary. I'm not asking you to be... His hands framed her face gently. I'm asking you to be Lily. That's all. That's everything. Lightning flashed, illuminating his face for an instant. In that moment, she saw past his careful control to the loneliness beneath, the ache that matched her own. Without conscious decision, she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was nothing like Richard's practiced seductions. This was honest, almost desperate two wounded souls reaching for warmth. Sam's hands tangled in her hair, and she could taste coffee and rain and possibility. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. I'm sorry, Sam said immediately. I shouldn't have... I kissed you, Lily pointed out, surprising a laugh from him. So you did. He touched her cheek gently. What now? I don't know. She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself. Sam, I care for you, for Eli, but I came here with nothing, running from debts and shame. What kind of life is that to offer? A real one, an honest one. He moved closer but didn't touch her again. Lily, I've learned something these 3 years. Perfect lives, perfect loves, they don't exist. We're all broken somehow. But broken pieces can still make something whole if they fit together right. That's beautiful words, but... A crash from upstairs cut her off. They both ran, finding Eli's window blown open by the wind, rain soaking his floor. The boy sat up in bed, clutching Thunder, eyes wide but alert. Window broke, he said clearly, loud. I see that. Sam wrestled the window closed while Lily grabbed towels. You all right, son? Wet. Eli looked at his damp nightshirt with disgust. Cold. Let's get you changed. Lily found dry clothes while Sam mopped the floor. The domestic dance felt natural, like they'd been doing this together for years instead of weeks. Once Eli was dry and settled in Sam's bed for the night, his own room too wet to sleep in, the adults found themselves back in the kitchen, the earlier moment hanging between them like an unfinished sentence. We should talk, Sam said eventually. Or we could not. Lily busied herself making fresh coffee. We could pretend that didn't happen. Is that what you want? She turned to face him. What I want and what's wise rarely align. Wisdom's overrated. But he smiled as he said it. All right. We'll take it slow. Court proper-like. If that suits you better. Court, the word tasted foreign. Sam Train, are you asking to court me? Seems I am. He looked boyishly uncertain. Been a while since I did this, might be rusty. I'm not exactly a blushing maiden. Thank God for that. His smile widened. Rather have a woman who knows her own mind. Despite everything, the storm, the emotions, the fear, Lily found herself smiling back. Then yes, you may court me, properly, with Eli as chaperone. Deal. He offered his hand to shake, formal as a business agreement. But when their palms met, the warmth was anything but businesslike. They spent the rest of the night in the kitchen, talking while the storm gradually wore itself out. Sam told her about meeting Mary at a church social, their quick courtship and quicker marriage when he decided to quit the gunsliding life. Lily found herself sharing more about Boston, about the girl she'd been who believed love conquered all. He wasn't evil, she said of Richard. Just weak, when his family threatened to cut him off, he folded like a bad hand of cards. His loss. Sweet of you to say. Truth of it. Sam refilled their cups. Man who'd choose money over you isn't worth spit. By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean. They ventured out to assess damage some fence posts down, minor flooding in the low fields, but nothing catastrophic. Eli emerged, dressed and carrying Thunder, to help with chores. Storm gone. He announced, Hungry. Speaking in sentences now, are we... Sam ruffled his hair. What next? Reciting poetry? Eli considered this seriously. No poetry. Pancakes. Lily laughed, the sound bright in the rain-fresh air. Pancakes it is. As she cooked breakfast, she caught Sam watching her with that soft expression she was beginning to recognize. When their eyes met, he winked, and she felt heat that had nothing to do with the stove. Eli noticed too, looking between them with sharp intelligence. Papa happy, he observed. Lily happy. Good. From the mouths of babes. Sam murmured. Smart boy, Lily agreed, serving up pancakes with extra syrup. But even as they shared this moment of domestic peace, she couldn't forget the world beyond their fence. Crowley was still out there. The debt still hung over her head, and now she had more to lose this fragile new happiness, this family stitching itself together from remnants. Stop thinking so hard, Sam advised, reading her expression. Whatever comes, we'll face it. We, he said it like a promise. You're not alone anymore. Lily Hayes, neither of us are. Eli nodded emphatically, reaching for her hand with sticky fingers. Family, he said, the word clear as morning light. And despite all her fears, all the storm still brewing on the horizon, Lily found herself believing, maybe broken pieces really could make something whole. Maybe love wasn't just for fools and children. Maybe, just maybe, she'd found her way home. The sun broke through the remaining clouds, setting the wet world to sparkling. In the garden, her plants had survived the storm, standing taller for the trial, much like the people gathered around this kitchen table, sharing pancakes and possibility in equal measure. Family, she repeated softly, tasting the word like a prayer. Asterisk, asterisk. Part 5, Running and Returning. Asterisk, asterisk. The letter sat on the kitchen table like an accusation. Lily had written and rewritten it 3 times before settling on simple words. I cannot stay. Please understand. Take care of Eli. L. Dawn was still an hour away when she slipped from her room, carrying the small bundle of possessions she'd arrived with. The house slept peacefully, Sam in his room. Eli curled with Thunder in the big bed they'd shared since the storm 3 nights ago. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like thunder to her guilty ears. In the weeks since that rain-soaked night, Sam had been true to his word about courting. Small gestures, wild flowers on her dresser, help with heavy chores without being asked, lingering glances across the dinner table. Eli had blossomed too, talking more each day, though still given to long silences when overwhelmed, which made leaving all the more necessary. Yesterday in town, she'd overheard the whispers. That woman at the train place. Heard Crowley's been asking questions back east. Shameful history. Poor Sam. Hasn't he suffered enough? What about the boy? The words had followed her home like wolves. She'd smiled through dinner, helped Eli with his letters, sat on the porch with Sam watching sunset paint the mountains gold, all the while knowing she had to go. Because they were right. Those gossiping voices? Sam had suffered enough. Eli needed stability, not scandal. And what was she but trouble wrapped in calico? The front door opened silently. She stepped onto the porch, breathing the pre-dawn air that smelled of sage and possibility. 5 miles to town, then the morning stage to Santa Fe. She had $17 saved from her wages, enough to start over. Again. She made it 3 steps before a small voice froze her solid. Where going? Eli stood in the doorway, barefoot in his nightshirt, thunder dangling from one hand, his hair stuck up in sleepy spikes, but his eyes were alert, worried. Just checking the garden, she lied, hating herself. With bundle, he pointed to her belongings, and goodbye dress. Her Sunday dress. He was right. Why would she wear it for garden work, Eli's sweetheart? You leaving? Not a question. His face crumpled. Because of me, I talk too much. I'll be quiet again. Promise. No. She dropped her bundle and knelt before him, catching his shoulders. No, Eli, never because of you. You're perfect. Your talking is the most beautiful sound in the world. Then why? Tears tracked down his cheeks. Is it Papa he made you sad? Your Papa's been nothing but kind. Then stay. He threw his arms around her neck, thunder pressing against her cheek. Please, Lily, please don't go like Mama. I'll be good. I'll help more. Eli, what's... Sam's voice stopped cold. Lily looked up to find him in the doorway, taking in the scene, her travel dress, her bundle on the ground. Eli clinging to her like she might vanish. His face went through several expressions before settling on carefully blank. Go back to bed, son, he said quietly. But Papa, she's... I know. Go on. Eli reluctantly released Lily, but not before whispering, Don't let her leave. Not like Mama left. When his footsteps faded upstairs, Sam stepped onto the porch. He didn't look at her, instead studying the lightening eastern sky. Were you going to say goodbye? I left a letter. A letter? His laugh held no humor. How considerate. Sam. No, let me guess. You heard the talk in town, decided we'd be better off without the scandal. He finally looked at her. Did it occur to you to discuss it, or did you think I'd be relieved to wake up and find you gone? Aren't you? The question burst out, raw with her own pain. Sam, they're saying terrible things. About my past, about why you really brought me here. Eli doesn't need that. You don't need that. What I need, he said slowly, is for people I care about to stop making decisions for me. Mary decided I'd be better off not knowing how sick she was until it was too late. Now you decide we'd be better off without you. When do I get a say in my own life? The pain in his voice cut deep. I'm trying to protect you. From what gossip, Lily? I've been gossiped about since the day I hung up my guns. They said I'd go back to killing within a month. They said Mary was a fool to trust me. They said Eli would be better off with other folks after she died. He stepped closer. You know what I did. I lived my life anyway. Proved them wrong by being better than their small minds could imagine. This is different. My past is past. We've all got one. You think mine's clean? I've got graves scattered across 3 territories. Men I killed for money. You loved the wrong man once. Which of us has more to be ashamed of? She couldn't answer that. You want to leave. I won't stop you. Sam continued, but don't pretend it's for us. We already chose you. Lily, every morning Eli runs to your room first thing, just to make sure you're still here. Every night I thank God for sending you to that auction. We chose you. Question is, will you choose us? From upstairs, they heard Eli's voice, high and scared. Papa, is she staying? Sam never looked away from Lily's face. I don't know. Son, is she? The sunrise broke over the mountains then, painting everything gold and rose. Lily thought about $17 and a stagecoach, about starting over in another town where nobody knew her shame. Then she thought about Eli's tears, about thunder pressed against her cheek, about pancakes with extra syrup and stories during storms, about Sam's flowers on her dresser and the way he looked at her like she was worth choosing. I'm staying, she called up to Eli, her voice breaking. I'm staying. The boy's whoop of joy was followed by the thunder of small feet on stairs. He burst onto the porch and threw himself at both adults, forcing them together in a 3-way embrace. Family stays together, he announced firmly. That's the rule. When did you get so wise? Sam asked, but he was looking at Lily over Eli's head. Lily taught me, Eli said simply. And Mama, in my dreams, she says Lily makes us whole again. Lily's eyes burned. Eli. It's true, the boy insisted. She says you're not supposed to replace her. You're supposed to be you. That's why she sent you. Out of the mouths of babes, Sam murmured, echoing his words from days before. They stood there as the sun climbed higher, still tangled in their awkward embrace. Finally, Lily pulled back, wiping her eyes. I should make breakfast. I'll help, Eli offered immediately. In your nightshirt. He looked down, giggled a sound that made both adults smile, and ran inside to dress. When they were alone, Sam bent to pick up Lily's dropped bundle. Running doesn't solve much, he said gently. Trust me, I tried it for years. I was scared. The admission came hard. Not of you or Eli, of how much I want this, how much it would hurt to lose it. Can't lose what you never try to hold, Sam pointed out. And Lily, we're scared too, but we're here anyway. She took the bundle from him, their fingers brushing. The talk won't stop. Crowley won't stop. It might get ugly. Then it gets ugly. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Rather face ugly with you than peaceful alone. Sam Train, you're a dangerous man. So I've been told. He smiled then, that rare full smile that transformed his face. Come on, Boy'll be demanding those pancakes. Inside, they found Eli already setting the table. Thunder placed carefully in the 4th chair. He'd put out 4 plates without thinking, and something about that small gesture, including the wooden horse as family, broke through Lily's last defenses. "I'm sorry," she told them both, "for trying to leave, for not trusting, for—" "Papa says sorry's not needed in family," Eli interrupted. "Just doing better." "Smart Papa," Lily managed. "Smart boy," Sam corrected, ruffling Eli's hair. As Lily cooked, she felt the fear that had driven her to run slowly dissipating. It wasn't gone, might never be entirely, but watching Sam help Eli with his letters, hearing the boy sound out words with growing confidence, she understood something. Love wasn't the absence of fear. It was choosing to stay despite it. "Lily," Eli called. "How do you spell home?" She told him, watching him carefully form the letters. "What are you writing?" He held up his slate. "Eli Train lives at home with Papa and Lily and Thunder." "Perfect spelling," she said around the lump in her throat. "Perfect everything," Eli corrected with 7-year-old certainty. Sam caught her eye, his expression soft with promise, and Lily thought maybe, Just maybe. The boy was right. After breakfast, as Sam headed to the barn and Eli fed the chickens, Lily unpacked her bundle. She hung her dresses back in the wardrobe, placed her few belongings on the dresser. The letters she'd written went into the stove, watching her cowardly words turn to ash. Through the window, she could see Eli chattering to the chickens, telling them about how Lily had stayed beyond him. Sam worked on a fence post, steady and sure. Margaret Hayes's note still sat in her drawer. A woman is not to be sold. She is to be loved. I'm learning, Lily whispered to the morning air. Slowly, but I'm learning. The day unfolded normally after that chores and meals, Eli's lessons and Sam's quiet presence. But underneath ran a new current of understanding. They'd weathered her attempt to run. They'd chosen each other with eyes open. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching another sunset, Eli curled between them with Thunder. The boy spoke into the comfortable silence. Tomorrow, can we go to Mama's grave? I want to tell her Lily's staying for real. If Lily's willing, Sam said. She nodded, throat tight. I'd be honored. Good, Eli said sleepily. Mama likes knowing we're okay. As the stars emerged one by one, Lily felt the last of her flight instincts settle. This was home now, not the place. But these people, this man who'd seen her at her worst and offered flowers anyway, this boy who'd given her his trust along with his wooden horse. No more running, she said quietly. Sam's hand found hers in the darkness. No more running, he agreed. And beneath the vast New Mexico sky, with Eli's soft breathing between them and Thunder standing guard, they sat in peaceful silence, a family stitched together from loss and choosing, stronger for having been tested. The morning stage to Santa Fe left without her, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Lily Hayes had no desire to be on it. Asterisk, asterisk, Part 6, The Shadow of Justice, asterisk, asterisk. The federal marshal arrived on a Tuesday morning, his badge catching the autumn sun as he dismounted outside the trading post. Word spread through Dust Hollow like wildfire. Marshal James McKenna, sent from Santa Fe to investigate irregularities in debt collection and possible violations of federal law. Lily heard about it from Mrs. Patterson at the general store, the older woman's eyes bright with the thrill of gossip. They say he's here about those auctions Crowley's been holding. Federal government's finally taking notice of our little town. With shaking hands, Lily paid for her purchases and drove the wagon home faster than safe. She found Sam in the barn, mending harnesses with Eli helping or trying to. There's a federal marshal in town, she said without preamble, investigating the auctions. Sam's hand stilled on the leather. Could be good news. Or Crowley could twist things, make it seem like. She glanced at Eli, chose her words carefully. Like we're the ones in the wrong. Papa? Eli looked between them, worry creasing his young face. Is the lawman here about Lily? Don't know yet, son. Sam set down his work. But whatever happens, we face it together. Remember. Family rule, Eli said firmly, clutching Thunder. Nobody faces trouble alone. That evening, the marshal appeared at their door. James McKenna was younger than Lily expected, perhaps 35, with shrewd blue eyes and a manner that suggested he missed nothing. He removed his hat politely when Lily answered the door. A Mrs. Train. Miss Hayes, she corrected. I work for Mr. Train. Ah, something flickered in his expression. I'm Marshal McKenna. I'd like to speak with you and Mr. Train, if you have a moment. They sat in the parlor, the formal room, rarely used, while Eli hovered in the doorway until Sam sent him to his room. The boy went reluctantly. Thunder held tight. I'll be direct, McKenna began. I'm investigating claims of debt bondage in this territory. Your name came up, Miss Hayes. I work here freely, Lily said, for fair wages. After being sold at auction to pay your father's debts. Sam leaned forward. I paid $25 to prevent a travesty. Marshal, Miss Hayes is no one's property. I'm glad to hear it. McKenna pulled out a notebook. Would you be willing to testify about what happened that day? Who else was involved? Crowley would ruin her, Sam said flatly. He's got influence, friends who'd make her life miserable. Mr. Crowley is exactly who I'm investigating, McKenna replied, along with Judge Ferris, who's been signing some very questionable documents, but I need witnesses. Lily's heart raced. Testifying meant reliving that horrible day, meant putting herself in Crowley's crosshairs, but staying silent meant other women might face the same fate. What protection can you offer? Sam asked. The full weight of federal law, and... McKenna hesitated. There might be compensation. For those wrongfully sold, the government is considering restitution from seized assets. I don't want money, Lily said. I want to be free of this, of him. Then help me put him away. McKenna's voice was gentle but firm. You're not the first, Miss Hayes. 3 other women in surrounding towns, one barely 16. But you're the only one still in the area, the only one willing to speak. I'll testify, Lily said, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. When? Day after tomorrow. We're using the saloon biggest space in town. Judge Hartwell's coming from Santa Fe to oversee. McKenna stood. Thank you, both of you. This took courage. After he left, Sam found Lily on the porch, staring at the stars. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She wrapped her shawl tighter. For the girl who was barely 16. For the next one Crowley targets. For Eli, so he grows up in a world where such things aren't tolerated. For yourself, too, Sam said softly. You deserve justice. Do I? I'm not innocent. Sam, what happened in Boston? Makes you human, not property to be sold. He sat beside her. Lily, I need to tell you something. About my past. She waited. The men I killed most were fair fights. Or as fair as gunfights get. But one, he stared at his hands. One was barely 18. Kid trying to make a name. I could have walked away. Could have refused the challenge. But I was proud. Stupid. His mother's face when she claimed the body. I still see it. Sam. Point is, we've all got things we'd change. Doesn't mean we deserve less than human dignity. Doesn't mean we're not worth defending. From upstairs, Eli's voice drifted down. He was reading aloud to Thunder, sounding out words from one of Mary's books. The normalcy of it, the sweetness, made Lily's chest tight. I'm scared, she admitted. Be strange if you weren't. Sam took her hand. But you won't be alone, not this time. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Word of the testimony spread, and reactions split the town. Some, like Margaret Hayes, offered quiet support. Others made their displeasure known through cold shoulders and harsh whispers. Crowley himself stayed mysteriously absent, though his men were seen riding the roads. The morning of the hearing, Lily dressed carefully in her best dress, simple blue calico, but clean and pressed. Eli presented her with a small bouquet of late wildflowers. For Brave, he said solemnly. Mama always said flowers help with Brave. Thank you, sweetheart. She tucked one small bloom into her hair. Will you and Thunder guard the house while we're gone? Yes, ma'am. He saluted seriously. Thunder's good at guarding. The saloon had been transformed into a makeshift courtroom. Tables pushed aside, chairs arranged in rows, and Judge Hartwell, a stern woman with steel-gray hair, presiding from behind the bar. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Crowley sat in the front row, dressed in his finest suit, looking like a respectable businessman rather than the predator Lily knew him to be. His lawyer, shipped in from Albuquerque, had the oily look of a man who'd argue water wasn't wet for the right price. State your name for the record, Judge Hartwell instructed after Lily was sworn in. Elizabeth Hayes, Her voice came out steady, surprising her. "Tell us about July 15th of this year." Lily told the story, simply her father's death, the debt, being dragged to Crowley's platform in chains. The crowd listened in silence, some faces sympathetic, others skeptical. "You claim you were sold," Crowley's lawyer interrupted. "But isn't it true, mister? Train offered employment, which you accepted freely." "After I was put on an auction block in shackles." Lily replied, "That's not employment. Sir, that's—" "What you did in Boston wasn't employment either, was it?" The crowd stirred. Sam started to rise, but Marshal McKenna's hand on his shoulder kept him seated. "I worked in a millinery shop," Lily said clearly, "making hats for fine ladies, including, I believe, your own wife when you lived there." "Mr. Morrison." The lawyer flushed. He'd clearly expected her to crumble at the mention of Boston. Judge Hartwell rapped for order. "Stick to the matter at hand, counselor." The questioning continued for an hour. Lily told everything: the chains, the leering crowd, the fear. When asked why she'd stayed with Sam, she looked directly at Crowley. "Because Mr. Train treated me as a human being. He gave me dignity, fair wages, and protection under his roof. Everything the law should have provided but didn't." "Pretty words." Crowley burst out. "Everyone knows what kind of protection a young woman receives from a widower." "Mr. Crowley." Judge Hartwell's voice cracked like a whip. "You'll have your turn." But the damage was done. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lily felt her cheeks burn but kept her chin high. Sam's presence behind her was solid as a mountain. Other witnesses followed. Marshal McKenna presented documents, forged papers, illegal contracts, evidence of a network selling women throughout the territory. Margaret Hayes testified about what she'd seen that day, her old voice ringing with indignation. Then, unexpectedly, Thomas Barrett from the Double J Ranch stood. "I was there," he said heavily. "Bid on her, to my shame. Man gets caught up in the moment, forgets himself. But it was wrong. What Crowley did was wrong." One by one, others stood. Not many, but enough. Men admitting their participation. Women describing the fear of debts that might lead to chains. The tide was turning. When Crowley took the stand, his bluster couldn't hide the sweat on his forehead. His explanations grew increasingly tangled as Judge Hartwell's questions grew sharper. These were legal contracts, he insisted. Debt bondage is recognized in territorial law. For voluntary indenture, Judge Hartwell corrected. Not for forcing free citizens into servitude, and certainly not under federal law, which supersedes territorial statutes. The hearing stretched past noon. Finally, Judge Hartwell called a recess to deliberate. The crowd spilled outside, clustering in groups to dissect what they'd heard. Lily found herself surrounded by women, some she knew, others strangers. They pressed her hands, whispered words of support and admiration. For the first time since Boston, she didn't feel marked by shame. Sam stood nearby, watching over her with quiet pride. When their eyes met across the crowd, he winked, and she felt courage bloom fresh in her chest. Judge Hartwell returned within an hour. The saloon fell silent as she began to speak. "The evidence is clear. Mr. Jebediah Crowley engaged in systematic violation of federal law prohibiting involuntary servitude. These actions are not only illegal but morally reprehensible." Crowley's face went purple. "Mr. Crowley, you are hereby bound over for federal trial. Marshal McKenna will take you into custody immediately. Furthermore, all debts you claim under these illegal contracts are null and void." The gavel came down with finality. Chaos erupted. Crowley tried to run but was caught by McKenna and his deputies. Some in the crowd cheered. Others muttered darkly. Through it all, Lily stood frozen, barely able to believe it was over. "You did it," Sam said in her ear. "You brought him down." "We did it," she corrected. "All of us." They drove home to find Eli waiting on the porch, thunder in one hand and Mary's book of recipes in the other. "Are you safe now?" he asked Lily anxiously. "Did the judge make the bad man go away?" "Yes, sweetheart. The bad man's going away." "Good." He held up the recipe book. "Can we make Mama's apple cake to celebrate?" That evening, as the scent of cinnamon and apples filled the kitchen, Lily felt something shift inside her chest. The chains were truly gone now. Not just the physical ones, but the invisible ones she'd carried since Boston. She was free. More than that, she was home. "You know what this means," Sam said as they cleaned up after dinner. "What?" "You could leave now. No debt hanging over you. Crowley gone. You could go anywhere." Lily looked at Eli, carefully copying letters at the table with Thunder standing guard. Looked at Sam, this good man who'd risked everything for her dignity. Looked at this kitchen where she'd learned to hope again. "I am exactly where I want to be," she said firmly. "Anywhere else would just be running from home." Sam's smile lit up his whole face, and Eli, apparently listening despite his concentration on letters, piped up, "Family rule says nobody leaves. It's a good rule." "The best rule," Lily agreed, ruffling his hair. Outside, the first stars were appearing in the vast New Mexico sky. But inside the train house, there was warmth and light and the sweet satisfaction of justice served not perfectly, not completely, but enough to build a future on. And that, Lily thought as she settled into the evening's familiar rhythm, was more than enough. It was everything. Asterisk, asterisk, Part 7. Seeds of New Growth, asterisk, asterisk. The weeks following Crowley's arrest brought changes to Dust Hollow like spring after a hard winter. With their leader gone and facing federal charges, Crowley's men scattered like tumbleweeds. The town seemed to breathe easier, and Lily noticed people meeting her eyes again when she came to market. Miss Hayes, young Mrs. Whitman called from across the general store one October morning. "Could I speak with you?" Lily tensed, still wary of town interactions. But the woman's face held only friendliness. "I wanted to thank you, Mrs." Whitman said quietly. "My sister in Silver City, she was one of the others Marshal McKenna mentioned, too frightened to testify. But what you did gave her hope." "I'm glad she's safe." Lily managed through the tightness in her throat. "She's coming to stay with me next month, starting fresh." Mrs. Whitman pressed a small wrapped package into Lily's hands. "Peppermint sticks. For the boy. I see him with you sometimes. He's talking again." "More every day." "That's wonderful. You've been good for the Train family." She paused. "They've been good for you too, I think." Lily could only nod. The simple acceptance in the woman's voice undid something tight in her chest. Back at the ranch, she found Sam and Eli in an unexpected scene. Sam sat on the porch steps with his guitar and instrument she'd seen but never heard him play while Eli stood before him, mouth open in concentration. "That's it," Sam encouraged. "Deep breath, then let it out with the words." Eli tried again, and this time sound emerged wavering but unmistakably singing, "Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound." Lily stopped in her tracks. Eli was singing, actually singing his mother's favorite hymn. "Lily!" The boy spotted her and ran over, words tumbling out in excitement. "Papa's teaching me Mama's songs. He said she'd want me to sing them, not just hum them." And I remembered the words, "And listen." He took another deep breath and sang the line again, clearer this time. Thunder watched from his usual pocket, and Lily could have sworn the wooden horse looked proud. "That's beautiful. Eli." She blinked back tears. "Your mama would be so happy." "She is happy," Eli said with certainty. "I told her at the grave yesterday, and the wind sang back." Sam set aside the guitar and helped Lily with her packages. "Good trip to town?" "Better than expected." She handed Eli the peppermint sticks. "These are from Mrs. Whitman," for being such a good helper. For me? His eyes went wide. Nobody in town ever gave me anything before. It was true, Lily realized. Since Mary's death, the town had kept its distance from the Train family, unsure how to handle their grief. Her testimony had broken more than just Crowley's hold. It had reminded people that they were a community. That evening, after dinner and Eli's reading practice, Sam suggested something that surprised them all. "There's a harvest dance Saturday, town hall. Thought maybe we might go." Eli's spoon clattered to his plate. "To town with people." "With people," Sam confirmed. "Music, dancing, food. What do you think, The boy looked at Lily uncertainly. "Would you dance?" "I haven't danced in years," she admitted. "Mama loved dancing," Eli said softly. "She tried to teach me, but my feet got tangled." "All feet get tangled when you're learning." Sam said, "Question is, do we let tangled feet stop us?" Lily understood the real question. Did they let fear stop them from rejoining life? "I have nothing suitable to wear," she said, which wasn't really an answer. "Yes, you do." Sam's smile held mischief. "Wait here." He returned with a box that made Lily's breath catch. Inside lay a dress of deep green wool, simply cut but beautifully made, with delicate embroidery at the collar and cuffs. "It was Mary's," Sam said quietly. "For special occasions. She was about your size. I think she'd want it worn again, not sitting in a trunk gathering dust." "Sam, I couldn't—" "Please." His voice was gentle but firm. "Let something beautiful come from storage. Let the town see us moving forward, not just surviving." Eli touched the fabric reverently. "Mama wore this when she taught me to dance. She smelled like roses." "We'll get rose water for Lily," Sam promised. "What do you say, shall we scandalize the town by actually enjoying ourselves?" And so, Saturday evening found them approaching the town hall, which blazed with lanterns and rang with fiddle music. Lily wore Mary's dress, altered slightly but fitting as if made for her. Eli had been scrubbed within an inch of his life and wore his mended shirt with thunder embroidered on the back. Sam had trimmed his beard and looked younger, lighter somehow. "If my feet get tangled, can we leave?" Eli whispered. "If feet get tangled, we untangle them," Lily whispered back. "That's what family does." The hall was crowded, and their entrance caused a momentary hush. Then Margaret Hayes, bless her, called out, "About time you showed up. Sam Train, this party needs some decent guitar playing." The ice broke. People greeted them, carefully at first, then with growing warmth. Eli stuck close to Lily's skirts until the Whitman children coaxed him into a game of tag around the refreshment table. His laughter, rare and precious, made several adults stop and smile. "Miss Hayes." Thomas Barrett appeared at her elbow, hat in hand. "I owe you an apology. What I did at that auction is forgiven," she said firmly. "You stood up when it counted. That took courage." Relief washed over his weathered face. Might I have a dance later proper-like? With Sam's permission, of course. I'd be honored." As Barrett walked away, Sam appeared with cups of cider, making friends. "Accepting apologies." She sipped the cider, tart and sweet. "Seems the whole town wants to make amends." "You gave them permission to be better than they were. That's a powerful gift." The dancing began in earnest. Sam led her onto the floor for a waltz, and if people stared, Lily found she didn't care. His hand was warm and steady at her waist, and he guided her through the steps with surprising grace. Where did a gunfighter learn to waltz? Mary insisted. Said any man who could dance with a gun should be able to dance with a woman. His eyes softened at the memory. She was right, as usual. They danced 3 dances before other partners claimed them. Lily found herself passed from partner to partner Barrett, the banker Mr. Henderson, Even young Timothy Parsons, who blushed furiously and stepped on her feet twice. Each dance felt like acceptance, like the town writing a new story over the old. But the best moment came when Eli tugged at her skirt. "Would you dance with me?" he asked formally. I practiced with Thunder, and I think I remember. The fiddler, seeing them, started a slow, simple melody. Lily took Eli's small hands and let him lead, or try to, his face scrunched with concentration as he counted steps under his breath. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, oops. "You're doing wonderfully," she assured him. "Your mama taught you well. She said dancing was like singing with your feet." He looked up at her. "Do your feet know any songs?" "They're learning new ones." Sam joined them, and they made an awkward but joyful trio. Turning slowly while the town watched with gentle smiles, someone started clapping in rhythm, and soon the whole hall was keeping time for a little boy learning to dance again. When the song ended, Eli threw his arms around both adults. "We did it. We danced, and my feet only tangled twice." "Proud of you, son," Sam said roughly. The evening flew by. Eli played with other children, his laughter mixing with theirs. Sam played guitar for a few songs, his deep voice joining the communal singing. Lily danced until her feet hurt, but it was a good hurt, the kind that came from joy, not sorrow. As they prepared to leave, Marshal McKenna appeared. He'd stayed in town to finish his investigation, and Lily had seen him dancing with a schoolteacher earlier. "Wanted to let you know," he said quietly. "Crowley took a plea bargain. 10 years federal prison. No possibility of return to New Mexico territory. It's over." "Thank you," Lily breathed. "For everything." "Thank you," he corrected. "Your courage started this, made my job possible." He tipped his hat. "Enjoy your freedom, Miss Hayes. You've earned it." The ride home was quiet, Eli drowsing against Lily's shoulder, Thunder clutched in one hand. The night sky spread above them, vast and star-studded. "Good evening," Sam asked. "Perfect evening." Lily shifted Eli's weight gently. "Though I may never walk again." "Worth it to see a smile like that, to see him laugh." Sam guided the horses around a pothole. "Mary would have loved tonight, seeing the three of us there, together, happy. You don't think she'd mind me wearing her dress, dancing with her family?" Sam was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "First time Mary saw me, I was collecting payment for killing a man. Blood on my hands, death in my wake. She looked right through all that to something she thought worth saving. Took me years to see what she saw." He glanced at her, moonlight silvering his features. "She'd look at you and see what I see, a woman who chose courage over comfort, who brought music back to a silent child, who made a house feel like home again. She'd probably wonder what took me so long to notice." "Sam, I'm not rushing anything," he said quickly. "Just want you to know the dress is yours if you want it. The place in our lives is yours, for as long as you choose to stay." Eli stirred, mumbling something about dancing horses. They both smiled. "I choose to stay," Lily said softly. "For Eli, for you, for myself." "Good." Sam's voice was thick. "That's good." They pulled into the ranch as clouds drifted over the moon. Sam carried sleeping Eli inside while Lily lit the lamps. The house welcomed them back, warm and familiar. As she helped tuck Eli into bed, the boy opened sleepy eyes. "Lily, will you teach me more dances?" "As many as you want to learn." "Good." He yawned hugely. "Papa needs to dance more too. Makes him smile." After he drifted off, Thunder standing guard, Lily found Sam on the porch with 2 cups of coffee. "A nightcap," he explained. "Thought we could watch the stars a bit." They sat in comfortable silence, the evening's music still echoing in memory. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote sang to its mate. "Thank you," Lily said eventually. "For the dress, for making us go tonight, for everything." "Thank you," he replied, "for staying." for being brave enough to hope. She thought about all the seeds planted in recent weeks, justice served, acceptance growing, a child finding his voice and his laughter. Tomorrow there would be chores and challenges, the ordinary work of living. But tonight, with coffee and stars and good company, the harvest seemed rich indeed. "We make a good team," she said. "The best," Sam agreed. And under the vast New Mexico sky, with the sleeping house holding their shared future, they sat and planned what seeds to plant come spring in the garden, in their lives, in the heart of a little boy who'd learned to dance again. The growing season, Lily thought with quiet satisfaction, had only just begun. Asterisk, asterisk, part 8, where wildflowers bloom, asterisk, asterisk. Spring came early to New Mexico that year, painting the desert with unexpected color, purple lupines, golden poppies, and Indian paintbrush transformed the landscape around the train ranch into something from a fairy tale. It seemed fitting, Lily thought, that new life should bloom so abundantly when everything else was beginning fresh. The morning of April 15th dawned clear and bright. Eli burst into the kitchen where Lily was making breakfast, thunder in one hand and a handful of wildflowers in the other. "For the special day," he announced, presenting the flowers with a formal bow. "Papa said today's important, so I picked the prettiest ones. They're beautiful, sweetheart." Lily arranged them in a jar, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. "Did you practice your part?" 20 times, Thunder helped. He made the wooden horse nod agreement. "Are you nervous?" "A little," she admitted. "Papa says that's normal. He threw up behind the barn, but he said not to tell you that." "Eli," Sam's voice carried from the doorway, mortified. "That was meant to be between men." "Oops." Eli looked not at all sorry. "But Lily's almost family already, so secrets don't count." "Right." "Go wash your hands, you little traitor," Sam said, but he was smiling. As Eli scampered off, Sam approached Lily. He was already dressed in his best, a black suit she'd never seen before. String tie. Boots shined to mirror brightness. He looked handsome and terrified in equal measure. "Second thoughts?" he asked softly. "Third and fourth thoughts," she admitted. "But they all lead to the same place." "Where's that?" "Here, with you and Eli." She touched his cheek. "With my family." He caught her hand, pressed it to his lips. "Family, I like the sound of that." They'd decided on simple no church. Too many memories there for Sam. Instead, Reverend Mills would come to the ranch, marry them under the big cottonwood tree where Mary lay buried. It had been Eli's idea. "Mama would want to see," he'd said with 7-year-old logic, "and this way she can—" Now, as guests began arriving, Lily stood in her room, soon to be their room, wearing Mary's green dress again. This time with new lace Margaret Hayes had insisted on adding, "in the mirror." She hardly recognized herself. Gone was the desperate woman from the auction block. In her place stood someone who'd chosen her life instead of having it chosen for her. A knock interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Lily?" Eli's voice. "Can I come in?" "Of course." He entered carefully, very serious in his miniature suit. Thunder peeked from his jacket pocket. In his hands, he carried a small box. "Papa said I should give you this, from him and from before." Inside the box lay a silver locket, delicate and beautiful. Lily recognized it. Mary had worn it in the portrait that hung in the parlor. "Eli, I can't—" "Open it," he urged. She did. One side held a tiny photograph of Mary. The other, new, showed Sam and Eli together, both trying to look serious but barely suppressing smiles. "See?" Eli explained. "Now you can carry all of us, the whole family, together." Lily's eyes burned. "Help me put it on." His small fingers struggled with the clasp, but he managed. The locket settled against her heart, warm and right. "Perfect," Eli declared. Then, more quietly, "I love you, Lily." "Oh, sweetheart, I love you too." "Good." He nodded decisively. "Family's supposed to love each other. Ready to go marry Papa?" She laughed, tears threatening her carefully applied powder. "Ready." The scene under the cottonwood took her breath away. Wildflowers everywhere in jars, woven into garlands, scattered on the ground. The whole town seemed to have come. Faces she'd learned to know these past months. Margaret Hayes in the front row, dabbing her eyes already. The Whitman family with Mrs. Whitman's sister, finally free and starting fresh. Thomas Barrett and the Double J crew, scrubbed and uncomfortable in their Sunday best. But Lily only had eyes for Sam, standing by Reverend Mills, looking at her like she was every sunrise and sunset rolled into one. Eli, very importantly, led her down the makeshift aisle. At the last moment, he whispered loudly, "Don't trip, we practiced this." Gentle laughter rippled through the gathering. Then Sam was taking her hands, and everything else faded away. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Mills began, but Lily barely heard the familiar words. She was lost in Sam's eyes, in the miracle of standing here alive and whole and choosing love despite everything that had tried to break them. "Samuel Train," the Reverend continued, "do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." Sam's voice was strong, certain. "Today and every day after." "Elizabeth Hayes, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" For a moment, Lily thought of all the names she'd carried Sullivan, the name that came with shame, Hayes, the name that brought freedom. But here, now, she was choosing a new name, choosing to be marked not by past pain but by future promise. "I do," she said clearly, "with all my heart." "The rings?" Eli stepped forward importantly, producing 2 simple gold bands from Thunder's saddlebags, a modification he'd made specially for the occasion. More laughter from the crowd, warm and affectionate, as Sam slipped the ring on her finger. He spoke words they'd written together. "With this ring, I choose you. Not because you need saving, not because I need healing, but because together we're stronger than apart. I promise to love you in drought and plenty, in silence and song, in sorrow and joy. You are my partner, my equal, my love." Lily's voice trembled as she placed his ring. "With this ring, I choose you. Not because you rescued me, but because you truly saw me and deemed me worthy of respect and love. I promise to stand beside you, to help raise your son as my own, to build a life rooted in trust and tenderness. You are my anchor, my freedom, my home. By the power vested in me by God and the territory of New Mexico." Reverend Mills proclaimed, "I pronounce you husband and wife. Sam, you may kiss your bride." The kiss was gentle, a promise more than passion. But as they parted, Eli tugged on Sam's jacket. "Can I kiss her too? She's my mama now, right?" Without waiting for an answer, he threw his arms around Lily's waist. She knelt to his level, and he kissed her cheek with a noisy enthusiasm. "Now it's official," he announced to the crowd. "We're a real family." The celebration that followed was unlike anything Dust Hollow had seen. Tables groaned under the weight of food neighbors had brought. Sam played guitar while others joined in with fiddles and harmonicas. Dancing broke out spontaneously, and Lily found herself passed from partner to partner, everyone wanting to wish her well. But the best moment came as the sun began to set. She found Sam and Eli at Mary's grave, where someone, Margaret, probably had placed a bouquet of wildflowers. Telling Mama about the wedding, Eli explained, "She wanted to know if you cried. Papa cried." "Just a little," Sam defended. "Dust in my eyes." "Lots of dust," Eli agreed solemnly. "Made my eyes water, too." They stood together, the 3 of them, as shadows lengthened across the prairie. Then Eli began to sing clear and true the hymn his mother had loved, Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Sam's deeper voice joined in, then Lily's. Their harmonies weren't perfect, but they were real, rising into the evening air like a prayer of gratitude. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. As the last notes faded, Eli looked up at his new parents. "Think Mama heard yai?" "I know she did," Sam said softly. "Good." Eli took their hands, one in each of his. "Let's go home. I'm hungry. And Mrs. Whitman made 3 kinds of pie." They walked back to the celebration together, thunder bouncing in Eli's pocket, wedding rings catching the last light. Behind them, the cottonwood stood witness to all its shadows, had seen grief and joy, endings and beginnings, the eternal dance of loss and love. The party continued late into the night. When the last guest finally left, the new family collapsed in the kitchen, exhausted but happy. "Good day," Sam asked, pulling Lily close. "The best day." She leaned into his warmth. "Though I may never dance again." "That's what you said after the harvest dance," Eli pointed out sleepily. "But you danced lots tonight." "Wise child," Lily murmured. "Too wise. Mama says I get it from both my parents now." He yawned hugely. "All 3 of them." Sam carried him up to bed, the boy mumbling about cake and dancing horses. When he returned, he found Lily on the porch, still in her wedding dress, watching stars appear. "Regrets?" he asked, joining her. "Never." She turned to face him. "Sam, when they laughed at that auction, when I stood there in chains thinking my life was over, I never imagined this, never thought I'd have a home, a son who loves me, a husband who sees me as an equal." "What did you think would happen?" "Honestly, I thought I'd survive, endure, make it through each day until I could run." She touched the locket at her throat. "I never thought I'd want to stay. Never thought I'd choose to bind myself again, this time with love instead of chains. And now I know the difference. No one bought me this time. I chose you. I chose Eli. I chose this life." She smiled, radiant in the starlight. "And I'd choose it again tomorrow and every day after." Sam kissed her then, deep and sure, a husband kissing his wife on their land under their sky. When they parted, he whispered, "Welcome home, Mrs. Train." "Been home for months," she whispered back. "Just took us a while to make it official." They sat together as the night deepened, planning their future, expanding the garden, teaching Eli to read better, maybe adding to their family in time. The challenges ahead seemed smaller when faced together, and the joys seemed larger when shared. In his room, Eli slept peacefully, thunder standing guard on the nightstand. In his dreams, he danced at weddings where all 3 of his parents smiled down at him, where wooden horses ran through fields of wildflowers, where love was the only law that mattered. And in the kitchen of the Train Ranch, no, the Train family home, 2 coffee cups sat side by side on the table, no longer symbols of loneliness, but of partnership, of choosing each other, again and again, in a land where such choices were hard-won and precious. The prairie winds sang through the grass, carrying the scent of sage and possibility. Somewhere in the distance, church bells were ringing in Dust Hollow, celebrating not just a wedding but a new beginning. A reminder that even in the harshest ground, with enough courage and care, love could bloom as wild and beautiful as desert flowers after rain. Lily Train. She loved the sound of that, closed her eyes and listened to her husband's heartbeat, to the wind's lullaby, to the quiet breathing of their son upstairs. This was her family, her choice, her home, and it was perfect. Thank you so much for listening to this story of love, redemption, and family in the Old West. I'm curious to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect and discuss what touched your heart in this tale. If you enjoyed Lily and Sam's journey, please subscribe to Wild West Night, give this video a like, and hit that hype button to help more people discover these stories of hope and courage in America's frontier. Your support means the world and helps keep these tales alive for everyone who believes in the power of choosing love over fear.